or creativity sparks that connection, if that makes sense. So, when we connect via art or anything else, it's because of creativity. And so I think we lose a lot of that when we start to leverage AI in ways that we really should think twice before we do that.
You are listening to Amplify Your Success Podcast, episode 356. And today we're going to talk about how to use AI to successfully market your podcast. You ready for this? Let's get started. Welcome to the Amplify Your Success Podcast. Get ready to ramp up your revenue, amplify your impact, and make your mark in the world. This is the show for experts, thought leaders, and service professionals who want to shatter their limits and achieve that next level. You're going to find out from other experts and influencers how they made it. Now, let's get amplified. Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and business leaders. It is your host, Melanie Benson, Authority Amplifier and Possibility Igniter. Today, I've got a guest joining us, and we're going to be delving into the world of AI today. And this is just such an interesting conversation. I just adore this guest. She's so fantastic. And she's a badass. She's built her own very successful company even before AI was all the rage. So I can't wait to share this conversation with you, especially if you have a show or a podcast that you want to grow the reach. Now, speaking of having a podcast as part of your marketing platform, I highly recommend, if you do not have this yet, to go right now, stop everything you're doing, head to amplifywithmelanie.com, and I want you to download the guide that is there. This is 7 steps to help you monetize a platform like your podcast or podcast guesting or any of the things you're doing out there in the world to grow your reach and to attract new people into your orbit. If you do not know, if you don't have all these 7 pieces plus a bonus one in your framework, you're probably leaking leads and profits. So go download it. This is the same framework I've used every time I want to stop being a best kept secret and start really ramping up results in a significant way. So go to amplifywithmelanie.com, download the guide, and then come right back here and you want to listen to this amazing episode with our special guest. Welcome back, Amplifiers. I hope you're excited for today's conversation. This is the first conversation about AI on the show. We're going to talk about how AI can actually fuel your creativity or kill it, depending on how you use it. So we're going to be talking with Deirdre Tshien. Now, Deirdre is the co-founder and CEO of Capsho. It is a software that helps experts who podcast or have shows of any kind create AI generated assets like show notes and a whole bunch of cool stuff that you're going to want to hear about today in under 10 minutes so they can quickly amplify their message, grow their listeners, and build their movements. Now, Deirdre's also the creator of Content Dripping, author of Honey Trap Marketing, and host of the Grow My Podcast show. And with her hands-on experience in successfully growing her businesses to 6 and 7 figures, she now helps podcasting entrepreneurs beat obscurity, amplify their message, and build their movements. Deirdre, thank you so much for being here today. And I'm so excited for this conversation.
It's such an honor. Thank you so much for having me on, Melanie. This is going to be such a blast.
Yeah. So Deirdre and I actually met when I was speaking at Podfest last year. So this is 2023. So it would have been 2022. And everybody was just like, oh my God, you have to meet her. Oh, you have to meet her. She's doing so many cool things. And we just had this moment of like, oh, hi. And then we both got pulled in other directions. So this conversation's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
That's the blessing and the curse of live events is you make those great, meaningful in-person connections, but you don't always get enough time.
For sure. I think that was definitely one of those moments. And it was funny when you mentioned Podfest last year, because that was literally, we were completely, I would say, new to the podcasting event industry. We've been podcasting for a while, but that was the first time we'd actually been to an event for podcasters. So we were like, deer in headlights, like, what is going on? Oh my gosh, there are all these people talking about podcasting. This is so cool. And it was so much fun. So it was so good meeting you then.
Yeah, it's lovely. And I've really, we're going to talk a lot about AI generation or AI and how it can fuel the creativity for a podcaster or anybody who's creating content in some way, shape, or form. But, you have been sharing so many extraordinary insights on your journey through social media, and it's just like been really magnetic, and it's like a really compelling quality of the way you're sharing your journey. And so thank you for kind of giving us a glimpse behind the scenes of what it's like to have a tech company right now, and tapping into the AI journey the way you are.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot actually, because sometimes, you don't really know if what you're sharing is something is actually valuable that people really actually want to hear about.
Mhm.
So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I feel like you were kind of tapped into this AI journey as more of, I guess, like an early bird, or like as a real innovator would be. And now all of a sudden we're seeing it everywhere.
Mhm.
Why AI for you? What was the pull to go in that direction with your company?
Yeah, it was really interesting. So there's a couple of things I've known about AI for years and years. So I actually came across it or learned about it first in my corporate career, which gosh, I left that probably about God, I've lost track of time, maybe like 7 years ago now. So I would even say it was like 10 years ago that I was introduced to AI, because I was actually I was heading up the innovation team in the bank for a bank in Australia. And as part of that, we were actually looking at use cases for AI in banking. So you can imagine that AI 10 years ago was quite nascent. I mean, yeah, very, very new. But it kind of already, even at that time, really captured my imagination around all of the possibilities. And I kind of parked it because I was like, I had my previous businesses, it was more in hospitality. Then I fell into marketing and coaching and things like that. And then it kind of swung back around because I was really passionate about solving this particular problem that I started with myself, obviously, as a lot of it does. And really, I wouldn't, s- oh, I'm not one of those co-founders or founders that was like, I love this technology. I'm going to, really find a use. I really want to, force it into something. I really came from the problem. What's the problem that we're trying to create? And AI just happened to be a natural solution for it. So that's really, I guess, the spin I would put on that question you asked me, which is it was more like I just really wanted to help podcasters, especially entrepreneurs who podcast, because we know that the best way that we can generate leads, nurture an audience, really get someone to know, like, and trust us is through our content. And that was a problem that I was trying to solve for myself. How can I actually use an anchor piece of content that I create in way more innovative ways? And that's to my strategy of content dripping in ways that can really build that know, like, and trust with my audience.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. So I don't actually know the answer to this question. What came first for you? Hosting a podcast or the spark to create a capsho? Which one came first for you?
Hosting a podcast, yeah. So I started my podcast 3 years ago. That was when I had my coaching business. I started my coaching business, and a mentor told me that if for a few reasons. One, a podcast was a great way to find your voice because I was new to coaching. I'd had an agency business that I transitioned into coaching, and I didn't really know what I wanted to talk about, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't really know what I was a quote unquote expert in, apart from the fact that I knew about digital marketing and I could do that. I was doing that for e-commerce brands at the time. And so my mentor was like, okay, the podcast is one of the best ways for you to be able to find your voice and to actually, we talk about all these cliches all the time. Like, it's your ears are the closest thing to your brain. And, what better way to be plugged into someone to than to have them actually listening to you
Mm.
week in, week out. All of those things. And so I started a podcast that was 3 years ago. And honestly, there were a lot of times when I was like, why in the world am I doing this? What results is this actually giving me? What Anyway, all of those things happened for me at the time. And because of that, and trying to figure all of that out and working out the strategies, the marketing strategies around it was really then how Capsho came about.
Hmm. I've been podcasting for almost 10 years now, or I guess it is 10 years now. And show notes have always been the bane of my existence. So it's exciting to see what you've created here with the technology side of it, because first of all, I want to talk more about AI in general, because I think AI is this, all of a sudden it's just like it was like the year Clubhouse came on the market and everybody's like, oh my God, audio. And now it's like, oh my God, AI. But it's really been around for a long time.
Fine.
And but in particular, when you're thinking about creating content, your the way you do show notes, the way you create content, this is what gets you found in any kind of marketing, right? Like whether it's a podcast or an online show, or even if you're just sharing content online, your the captions that you write, the words you use are the magnet that pull people in. And especially with a podcast, that's the SEO, the search engine optimization, picks up on those
Mhm.
keywords that you're putting in. So this is a game changer for the podcasting industry particularly.
Yes, for sure. And I think we're going to mention this at the end, but I might just, so there is a free gift that I have for people, for everyone listening to this. And it really goes into the discoverability part of podcasting. So it really hones in on the in-app play. So when we talk about in-app, that's like the Spotify's and the iTunes and the actual apps that podcasts live on. It goes into how to actually optimize your title and description to get found. And then it also goes into, with your podcast website content, how do you optimize that for the search engines, for Google, to help you get found. So we nerd out a lot on all of the things like SEO, etc. We are marketers. So me and my two co-founders, we're marketers at heart. And so the way that we actually built Capsho was very much about how do we actually help people amplify their message? How do we actually help them get found? So that's to your point. That is what underpins everything that we create inside Capsho.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll talk about this more later, but just since we're on this subject right now, when you do have your own podcast or your own show and you're creating those captions and the content that pulls people in, like this is a time suck if you're doing it manually. And so, technology and AI in particular can really shorten it, but also, like you said, give you the words to amplify the reach of it. So it's really cool. Well, let's talk a little bit more about AI.
Mhm.
Um, you had posted something that really pulled me in about, is this something that can fuel our creativity, or is it killing our creativity? And I think this is a debate that's happening in general right now.
Mm.
And I think there's a lot of people that are scared that their job, like their $10,000 a sales page, business is going to deteriorate because of AI.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on AI, and whether it's fuel for creativity or it's going to kind of erode our creativity as entrepreneurs?
Yeah. I think the way that I think about this is AI is so powerful in that efficiency part. And I'm going to circle back to this because I think we all know that, but I just, I wanted to like put that down as like that's kind of almost fact. And so when we talk about where we need to play, to almost like I I don't want to use the words combat. It was really funny. So I'm going to go into all these different tangents. So you will have to pull me back, Melanie. But I was actually on a show notes summit over the weekend, and I said something that someone actually really resonated with them, where they got in touch and was like, "Thank you for saying that." But AI does not. It's not designed and is it should not be used to replace a human. It's there to augment us, right? And so where do we as humans have to play our part? It's in being even more human, if that makes sense. Like that sounds really like duh, but it, it's so true because there are some parts to what it is that we do right now that is just not human by nature. It is actually not creative. It is actually not value adding to anyone. It's actually not bringing joy to us or to other people in our lives. And that's the stuff that actually AI can help with. That's the stuff that when I say the efficiency, that's what that is. And what we as human, like, how can we embrace that and actually use that to fuel our creativity? Because And there's two parts to this. There's the part that where people will use AI in a way that is not aligned to that. I think that's just also going to be fact. I call it more and more, I see it in, like, I call it black hat businessing. It's kind of like black hat marketing, where people are actually literally standing up businesses and, they're selling books and etc. that are completely AI generated. I don't believe in that. In the same way that you can now actually create a podcast or do videos that's end to end AI. Like, it will script it for you. You can then leverage like an AI voice, or you can leverage AI video actors, quote unquote actors, to actually then be. And that is, to me, not a creative process. Because creativity comes down to connection as well. When we can connect with other people, that's when creativity sparks that connection, if that makes sense. So, when we connect via art or anything else, it's because of creativity. And so I think we lose a lot of that when we start to leverage AI in ways that we really should think twice before we do that. Should it be scripting our podcast episodes? Fundamentally, no. Like, that's my stance on it. It should not. It can fuel it by way of, hey, here are some interesting things that you could talk about, some topics that you could, because sometimes we need that. We need just that spark. But the stories and the experiences and the expertise, that has to come from us. Even when it comes to then recording, like our voices, people connect with our voices, right? They connect with the pitch and the way that I talk and the way that I say like so many times and so many times. And, and the way that I go on rants a lot, like, and tangents, that's what people connect with. Love me or hate me, like, either way. And the way that I show up on a video, an AI cannot create that kind of connection, because fundamentally we're trying to connect with people, not other machines. So I think we lose when we think about AI. Sometimes some of us can get really excited about the fact that, oh my gosh, either this means that I don't have to be that person that has to be creative, when really we need to lean even more into that human part of us, of how do we become even more creative and just have the AI help support that.
Yeah, so let me see if I can capture the essence of what you just said, because I think it's very powerful. AI is a tool, and the tool can kill our creativity if we let the tool try to replace it.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be a spark for creativity if we use it to kind of capture ideas, or maybe expand the what we were imagining, and like give us a base to start with, but then we bring our humanness to it, our unique energy to it, our particular voice and tonality and humor and all of that. So am I capturing that properly?
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly right. And that's why, with Capsho, I'm so passionate about what we did, which is, we're never going to get to a place where, because I fundamentally don't believe that AI should be the one scripting, etc. But what we do is we will take the content that you've created, so your podcast, your YouTube video, a live stream episode that you've done, for example, because that is you being creative. That was you being human. That was you sharing your expertise and your stories and your experiences and all of that. And our AI inside of Capsho will anchor all of the content that we create on that. So that's kind of the difference. I get asked all the time, what's the difference between you and ChatGPT? Is that ChatGPT is a general AI, which is awesome, because it kind of goes out to all of the data that it's, learned from, and it brings it back and it gives you some really good things. We're a narrow AI, where we literally anchor in on the content that you've created, and we just help you amplify that. So how do we help you create even more content from something that already came from you?
Yeah, well said. So I don't think we should be afraid of AI, is really what we're saying. It's not going away. So I think what we're really looking at is, like, how do we adapt to a world where AI is going to be a constant? Like, AI is going to be a tool that we see more and more and more and more. How are you guys looking at adapting with AI, just as a business owner in general?
Yeah, for sure. So we are looking at everything. Before it was kind of like, okay, automate and delegate. Now it's kind of how do we combine automation and delegation by leveraging AI? That's, I think, going to be a real power and a real asset for all business owners going forward. That's not to say that we're not going to have, like, we're not going to hire. We're literally actually hiring someone now, and AI can just help them be way more productive and way more efficient. Even from a customer service perspective, like, how can we leverage AI to give an even better experience? That at the end of the day, there's still a human behind it, or there's still a human at the end of it. But AI can do so much, I think, to just shortcut a lot of those simple questions that, are more repetitive in nature but make it fun. And so we're just looking at different ways that we can almost shortcut, first it's automation, there's delegations. Like, no, let's just combine them and let's just actually leapfrog what we would have done before. So yeah, that's kind of how we're looking at it from a business perspective.
So, leaning more into Capsho and how AI is done there, like so let's say we host a podcast or a show of some kind, maybe it's a YouTube show or like a Facebook Live or LinkedIn Live.
Yeah.
How can we best utilize this AI tech to amplify the reach of our message?
Yeah. Okay. So in short, what Capture does, it creates a title, a description, and it does start with podcasters. It does work for video podcasting. It definitely works for live streams, even webinars. We've had people summits put through any content, long form content into Capture. It takes audio and video files. So basically, it creates a title, description, a podcast website content, or even for YouTube, for example, if you do happen to have your YouTube videos as separate pages on your website, it can very much, you can use it for that. It does social media captions for almost all the platforms like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Shorts, YouTube Shorts, Twitter. It does a email, promotional email. It does a full blog post. It does a LinkedIn newsletter. It does a YouTube description. It pulls out quotes. It That's the power of what Capture has done. And so when you start to think about all of those assets, you kind of go, wow, okay, we spoke about this particular topic on this episode. We talked about how does AI, fuel your creativity or kill it? And that's a topic that, you might choose, Melanie, when you're going through Capsho. And so it will actually create for social, for example, it'll go, okay, here's a social media caption that you can use to promote this episode. Here's one to engage, because it's all about asking questions. It's like, hey, do you use AI, for example, or how do you use AI? Or it creates educational captions where it will just give value. It'll just be like, this is how it can work if we were to talk about this in a workflow, for example. Like that is, so Capture actually does it in those ways, so that there are so many multiple ways and perspectives that you could bring to that conversation, the conversation that you started because you created content on it, as a way to amplify your message. A blog post is just such a powerful way, to actually get more long form content in front of your audience and to have them really fully and create that credibility as well. It's like, oh my gosh, Melanie, you have a podcast and you have this blog post that I can also binge, and a YouTube a video as well. Like, that's amazing. Let me follow you on all those places because I want to keep learning from you because you give so much value. So yeah, that's how we help our users amplify their message.
Mm. I'm listening to you going like, oh my gosh, this is just going to revolutionize the podcasting industry. It's going to make so many things really so much easier. And, if you do have a show or a podcast and it's not really been getting the reach, it's not attracting clients, maybe you're having a hard time getting top guests to come on your show. One of the things that great experts look for is the promotional reach that the host is creating. So this is one of those time savers, if you will, in my opinion, at least, that can really help you multiply the reach of your show without having to multiply the time you're spending developing your assets. So love it. Um, so my mind always goes to like, what do we need to avoid when I'm talking with people? Because I know you're so generously sharing all these great ways that this tool can help people.
Mm.
But is there things that people do that maybe kind of derail the effectiveness of AI, especially as podcasters or show hosts?
Yeah, when I think the biggest, I mean, I've already spoken about one part of it, which is when you use AI to actually literally be you, like almost replace you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's the other end of it as like, as in the other, okay, there's two parts of it. Either one, not using AI. I think everyone needs to be using AI in some form. Even if it's not Capsho, like just try the likes of, obviously ChatGPT is a big thing. So just try it and see the power of it. Because I think once you realize what the power is, like you're never going to be able to go back. So I think one thing is people who aren't using it need to start using it. The other is that people who are using it need to be involved still. This is, I think, the big misconception is that AI is, I can just, either there's fear around, hey, it's going to replace me, or there's not enough fear around it's, and because we have users who used to, just as an aside, we literally a few weeks ago launched 2.0 version of Capsho, which was designed to, for this purpose, was designed to actually ensure that the human got more involved in their content. Because what we were finding was that with our previous version was that people would just, they'd upload that episode, they just download the assets without even reading it, and they would just post that. And I was like, no, like I cannot be part of, it just didn't sit right well with me to be part of that particular problem. You need to be involved still. A human needs to be involved, because at the end of the day, this is still your voice. It's still your brand. It's the buck still falls with you, honestly. And you can't get away from that, right? That's just, again, we're the human, we're the creator, we're the business owner, we're the entrepreneur. The buck will always fall with you. So always be involved in the process as well. So I'll always say Capsho will get you, 80, 90% of the way there, but you still have to be the 10, 20, 30%. So yeah, I think that those are kind of the two ends of the spectrum. Either people aren't involved at all, or they don't want to be part of it. Either way. So yeah,
Makes sense.
okay.
As you're speaking, I was thinking, like, what are, and maybe this isn't necessarily a Capsho thing, but I'm sure there's other AI that could do this. And maybe, I don't know, maybe this is a Capsho version 3.
Mm.
But are there ways that you see people using AI for like topic ideas, or to like maybe do SEO research about what their community or their ideal audience is looking for?
Yeah, 100%. And this is actually, I actually did an episode on this on the Grow My Podcast show, where I spoke through where ChatGPT can really play a part in the process. And that is in giving you the topic ideas. I think it's really, really great for that. It's, you can ask it, is it SEO? Like, but you still, I think, have to do your own keyword research.
Sure.
Now, but so yeah, definitely it can help spark some things. What I would then, because like as I mentioned, Capture does help with on the SEO side. So it does pick out topics from what you've created and says like, what do you actually want Capture to focus your assets on? Because anyone who's an expert in SEO knows that you do need to talk about or focus your content on one particular topic for the machines to be able to pick it up and rank it. So we've definitely got that covered, but I would not rely on AI just like to be like, here, give me an SEO. Like, you still do need to do the research yourself for sure.
Mm. Yeah.
But yeah, it can totally help with sparking that creativity.
Is there anything else we haven't talked about that you want to make sure we bring into the conversation about AI, especially AI for content and AI for, growing the reach of your message?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we've covered a lot already. I just do want to ensure that people are, there's a lot of debate and talk around the ethics of AI. Definitely stay up to date with that if it's of interest, because I think the last thing that we want to do is to fall into the trap of like, here's this really great thing and I'm going to have it do all of, and then down the track something happens around AI or the regulation comes in, and that is going to impact potentially what you did before. So I would always, and this is why I always say this, you won't go wrong. You cannot go wrong if you stay involved in the process. As long as there is a human involved in the process, then that is either checking it, or that is editing it, or is, making sure that there's no plagiarism. That's making sure. And sorry, when I say no plagiarism, I'm thinking more from definitely from the image perspective, because I think there's a lot more uproar from that, because artists literally are getting, quote unquote, ripped off. They
Yeah.
get their art ripped off. So I think it's going to become more and more of a theme. So just stay involved in the process if you're going to use AI.
Yeah, that's such really perfect wisdom, perfect insight. As a matter of fact, I have a friend who is a business lawyer who she's getting very vocal about the the intellectual property side of AI. So yeah, I think we're going to see that swing in
Yeah.
as AI continues to proliferate so much of the marketing world, and sometimes the industry takes a little bit of time to regulate itself.
Yes, for sure.
So you mentioned earlier, and I feel so grateful for this resource that you're sharing with our audience today. What is the resource that you wanted to share with us?
Yeah. So I put together this really cool thing. I'm so excited about it. But for any especially podcaster, but just sub out podcaster for YouTuber or live shower, who wants to get discovered through SEO, especially through creating content on SEO. I actually have an audio, it's really short, actually, it's under 30 minutes in total, an audio course that actually goes through how to unlock, particularly in app player and Google SEO with your content. And as part of that as well, you get an extended free trial of Capsho, which is really cool. But it's just a really great resource to really very quickly and easily see how you can implement SEO in your business, in your content creation business.
So we will link that up for you in the show notes, but why don't you share the URL here for those that are listening instead of looking right now?
Yeah. So it's freegift.capsho.com. So freegift.capsho.com.
Well, this is one of my favorite parts. I mean, I love the conversations that I get to have with the experts like yourself, Deidre. But I always, there's just something about learning more about like how you got where you are today and what you learned. I think it makes us so relatable to people.
Yeah.
I'm curious, as you look back over your journey, what is the boldest move you made to amplify the success of this business?
Oh, I don't know if I mean, I guess without it, this business probably wouldn't exist. But the boldest move was probably making the move from Sydney, Australia, where I'm from, to New York City. So it was like 4 years ago, and it was really off the back of. I think I mentioned before that I had a hospitality businesses. I co-owned and ran those with my husband, Ash, and at the end of 2018, we found out that one of our store managers had been stealing from us, like
Oof.
hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah, it was a lot of money. And I think for me, that was like an effort moment. I was like, I don't want to be doing this anymore. And it was totally in a way left field for me to be like, you know what, we're just going to pack up and leave. We're just going to do this thing. Because I'm generally like such a planner. I'm generally quite, everything has to be set up. But in this case, I think because there was just so much happening and emotionally, all of those things, I was just like, yep, we're just going to do this and we're just going to make the move and let's just see what happens. No jobs, no business over here, nothing. It was just one of those moments. And if not for that, I don't think that we would be here having this conversation.
So sometimes you just have to trust that there's a spark for something that you may or may not know all the ins and outs of, but you got to trust that little voice saying it's
Right.
time.
Exactly. Yep. Just that was definitely a full gut, just, don't listen to the head thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I'm super curious if you know your human design. Do you know human design at all?
I did. Remember, I probably, if I knew if, yeah, what were anyway, we can have this.
Manifester, manifesting generator, generator, projector, or reflector.
I think I was the manifesting generator. maybe.
That's exactly what I thought you would
Okay,
say.
right. Okay.
I'm getting so good at this.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for those of you that don't know human design, stay tuned. I'll share more about that, or you can go back and listen to one of the human design episodes. But that like kind of initiating with the ability to take action is very manifesting design energy. So love it. Okay, last question. What is one thing you wish you would have done sooner, knowing what you know now, that it's going to impact your
Oh,
business so powerfully?
gosh, is it really trite for me to say, like, I don't I don't think that I could have. Even if I'd known, like theoretically known things sooner, I am such a big believer that we go on a journey for a reason. Like even if I had known this stuff before, I don't think I would have been able to implement it. I don't think I would have been able to, have found any success with it, to be honest. Like I had to go on this journey of all of the stumbles and all of the, to actually get to this point. So I actually don't think that I wish that I would have necessarily known anything sooner. I just don't think that's possible.
That's perfect. Because sometimes that's exactly right. Sometimes
Yeah.
all of the things had to come into fruition together to be the catalyst, and it is all perfectly designed to
Yeah. And I
get us where we are today.
Well, I think that's the thing. And I think we don't probably don't put enough. Well, I don't think maybe I didn't back myself enough at certain points in time to be like, to trust that that I have to be the person I am now to be in order to be able to handle the thing or the success that we're having now, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah,
I think if we had this 10 years ago, I would have burnt this thing to the ground. Like, there's no question about it. I would not have been able to make this any kind of success. I would not have been, but because of everything that I've learned on this journey, I, I now can. So yeah,
perfect.
that's what I believe.
I think that's perfect. Deidre, thanks so much for joining me today. I'm really excited about women like you who are disruptive and, trailblazing and creating accessible tools that help not only save time, but make us more impactful in the world. Like, I'm so much about amplifying like the impact we were born to make. And,
Yes.
when we have tools that make it easier, it's so exciting. So thank you. And thank you for the gift that you're offering our community. All right. If you have a show, I hope you will go check it out and use it. Make your show reach better. You
Yeah.
need people to find you with your show. And this is a tool that's going to help make that happen. So thank you, Deidre.
Thank you, Melanie. It was such a pleasure to be on this, and yeah, thank you for the privilege.
Thanks for tuning in today, Amplifier. Be sure to join us right now in the Amplify Your Authority community at authorityamplifiers.com, and I'll share my 7 proven tips to be a highly paid expert that stands out in a crowded market. Plus, we're going to keep this conversation going, and I want to hear from you how you're going to amplify your authority and make a greater impact. Before you go, please take a minute to give our show and our guests some love over on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave your full name, and I'll spotlight you and your authority on social media.